There's an interesting trend we're seeing in the smartphone world. Kind of like mimics society. The middle class of smartphones, those $300, $400 phones, well, they're disappearing. So you got your top flagship phones and then your budget phones at the bottom. That whole middle ground has disappeared. Well, today we're going to look at what I think is the best budget smartphone you can get for your money. This here, my friends, is the Motorola Moto E. There's three types of Motos. You got the Moto X, which is Motorola's flagship phone. Then you got the Moto G, which is kind of the mid-tier one, and then the Moto E, and this is the most budget-friendly phone out there to date. I gotta tell you, I've been using this phone for about 3 weeks now, and I absolutely love it. Makes me wonder why we pay so much for a smartphone. This baby right here costs $150. That's it. And honestly, you can do about 80–90% of things you could do with a premium phone. Okay, so let's just go through the design. And I'm not gonna get too much into the specs because I don't want people comparing this to some of the flagship phones. Like, you wouldn't compare a Pinto to a Porsche, would you? So we're not gonna do that here. What you see is a 4.5-inch screen. It's a little bit bigger than last year's version, which was 4.3. The screen, however, the resolution of the screen hasn't changed that much, so it's decent. It's really good for what you get for your value. It is a little thicker. Now, last year I was using the Moto X, 2014 version, and that was thinner than this one. But I do like the size, and it feels good in the hand. This is something, I don't know, Motorola just figured out the design. It just feels like a good phone. It feels like what a phone should feel like. Now, you can see you can't remove the battery, but what you can do is remove the side here, these little bands, to give it some character, because really smartphones are an extension of our own personalities. So I take that off, and what you can see is this is where you would put your SD card. You could put your nano or SIM card in here. This one takes a micro SIM and not nano SIM, so I had to get a little thing to make it bigger for that little case. But what you can do if you want to get some flavor on here is put these little bands on, so that you can get these accessory bands if you want to give it some flavor. So you get a little hot pink on there, sex it up. Another thing you could do, there's another band for other people if you want to get a little more protection, something like this, where I can just put it on the back. A lot of people like to use cases, so if you want to get a case, you can get something like this. Me, personally, I stick it to all black, Henry Ford style. Let's see that, there we go. Comes with 8 gigabytes of storage, but you can put a micro SD card on here and get up to 32 gigabytes, which is nice if you're taking a lot of photos and videos. Speaking of photos and videos, last year's model didn't have a front-facing camera. This one does. But it's only VGA, so it's not the best. You're gonna have to hold it really still. Definitely not the phone you'd want if you're gonna take a lot of selfies. On the back, 5-megapixel camera to take for videos as well. The video quality is only 720 and not 1080p, but again, we're talking about a $150 phone. Now, compared to last year's, for the pictures, last year's model didn't have autofocus. So if you wanted to get a focus, you had to physically move it. This one does have autofocus, and the pictures are pretty good. You're not going to get the best photo if you're taking it at night, but for the most part, if you're taking photos for like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, this is going to do the job. What I really like about this is running the latest Android, Lollipop. And that's one thing I've always loved about Motorola, is that they give you a very stock Android experience. Partly because Motorola was owned by Google. This version, however, they sold the company to Lenovo, and Lenovo decided to keep it nice and stock Android, which was something that I was really worried about, but they did a good job. They did the same thing with the ThinkPad when they bought that from IBM. They didn't change it much, so kudos to them. Again, it's a very, very good phone. It works very responsive. The screen could be brighter, a little bit brighter, but it's not a deal breaker for you. Another cool thing is, just quickly, if you want to take a photo, you can just tap it like this, and the camera is going to come up quickly. So great for parents if you see a moment with your kids and you want to capture it right away. You can do that with this phone. I really think this is probably the best phone you can get for your money. If you look at what you pay for and what you get out of it, hands down, this is the best one. Now, if you want something a little bit better, I would go for the Moto G, and if you can afford it, the Moto X, probably be my top smartphone of all time. It is just beautiful. Again, if you're looking for a budget-friendly smartphone, the Moto E is the best phone you can get for $150.